Hey everyone, Cayna here. Today I want to bring you the first of our easy to follow BFA Mythic dungeon guides. This guide is supposed to be short, easy for you to understand, even if it's your first time in the dungeon and you're completing it on Heroic or Normal. Before I get into the video, I want to let you know that there's a playlist where you can find all the other guides. Of course, please like the video, subscribe, enable notifications, and leave any feedback you have in the comment section below. First scary mob we will encounter will be the chosen Blood Matron. This Blood Matron's main mechanic is that he casts Warcry, which will increase his and all his allies' attack and cast speed by 100%. This means that the Blood Matron is extremely dangerous in bigger pools, and you generally want to try and take him alone, or either with very couple of small adds. Pulling this guy with too many will simply result in a quick wipe. The next mob you need to know how to deal with will be the Devoted Blood Priest. This Blood Priest has 3 different casts. The main cast you need to interrupt is Dark Reconstruction. Dark Reconstruction is a massive heal, can bring back up an ally from 5% all the way back up to 80. Make sure that this is your highest priority to interrupt. The other cast is called Gift of Goon. This will put a purgeable debuff on one of his allies. The buff prevents the target from dying, so make sure that you have someone that can purge this off. If you cannot, make sure you interrupt this at all costs. Other than that, also cast is Blood Bolt, which simply goes to the main target. Any spare interrupts you can put on this. After you clear the pack in the middle, you might want to take a couple of seconds to look what side you're going to. One of the 2 sides is always accompanied by 2 extra Chosens. As I explained earlier, Chosens are extremely scary to deal with, so make sure that you do not take the side with the 2 extra ones. Doing a pool with 2 or 3 Chosens is simply going to result into an insta-wipe, as the Warcry buff does stack. The next dangerous mob that you will only see once in this instance is the Befouled Spirit. The Befouled Spirit can not be gripped but can be stunned. The Befouled Spirit only has 2 casts, one of them being Dark Omen. Dark Omen is a channeled cast on one of your players, including your tank, does heavy taking damage on the target with an AoE pulse around it. Make sure you're spread for this and that you pop a personal. If this goes on someone that doesn't have a personal, is very squishy, you can stun this mob, but you cannot grip it. Other than this, all the mob will do is cast Hollowing Despair, which is an interruptible cast. You want to make sure you interrupt this at all costs, as it does a heavy AoE pulse that will almost one-shot your entire group. After clearing this pack, you will encounter the first boss, Elder Leaxa. Elder Leaxa's main mechanic is that she can mimic herself, duplicating her abilities. Her abilities are Blood Bolt. This is a bolt that goes to the main tank or the target with main aggro at that point. You want to make sure that the tank always picks up the duplications as well, as otherwise they will Blood Bolt to random targets. She casts Sanguine Feast, which is a fixed hit on a ranged player. Try and do a quick cast around them. Standing in this does a big amount of damage and applies a debuff to you. Has to be spot healed off. Other than this, she casts Creeping Rod. Creeping Rod simply is a big puddle of goo going towards a ranged player. Make sure you do not stand in this, as you can very easily take 2 or 3 ticks, which will result in you dying. Getting hit by any mechanic on this boss will put a debuff on you. These debuffs can only be removed by taking a spot heal, which means either something like Flash Heal, Healing Surge, or Riptide. Things like Healing Rain do not remove this debuff, so make sure you avoid at any point getting hit by any of these mechanics, as everything is dodgeable. Later on in this fight, Elder Leaxa will split into 2 copies of her, basically meaning you have to deal with all her abilities 3 times. After clearing some very easy trash, you will be entering the second boss room. When you run into this boss room, either clear the left or right side, as you do not need to clear the entire room. In this room there's a couple of living rods. These are extremely easy to deal with, as all they do is cast Wave of Decay, which just puts some goo on the ground. There's the Feral Blood Swarmers. These are dangerous to deal with. Sonic Screech is something you want to always interrupt, as it's an AoE silence that does a moderate amount of damage as well. This is your highest priority to interrupt out of all of these packs. Other than that, there's the Sea Slashers. All they will cast is Decaying Mind, which will put a very heavy Absorb Shield on one of your allies. While this healing Absorb Shield is there, the target is stunned for the entire duration of it. Make sure that either you interrupt this or your healer has a spot heal ready the second it goes out, as it's just a massive damage reduction having one of your DPS sit there for 6 seconds doing nothing. After we have cleared one side, we pull the second boss, Kragma the Infested. Kragma's main mechanic is that every mechanic he does will spawn a couple of small eggs. After a couple of seconds, these eggs will spawn blood ticks. These blood ticks, all they do is put a debuff on the main target. As he spawns a lot of eggs, it's extremely easy to start getting overrun. You want to make sure that you stand on the eggs to destroy them. His first mechanic is Indignation. This is simply a cast to the tank, and the tank can dodge this as well, as it's mostly a frontal, you can simply sidestep it. The second mechanic he has is Charge, which will go to any non-tank player, so either healer, melee DPS or ranged DPS. You want to bait it somewhere to a side where there's no adds, as the boss running into a couple more adds is just going to make the fight a lot harder than needed. When the boss reaches 100% energy, he will cast Tantrum. The boss will start walking around randomly and cause a heavy AoE. Best way to deal with this is simply pop a personal, every healer stand still and heal through the damage, while the rest of the DPS goes around to soak. Using saving movement speed increases for this area is extremely useful. The next mobs you need to know of what to deal with are the reanimated guardians. All the reanimated guardians do is they will put a shield on the top of themselves that is a very heavy absorb. So make sure either you have a master spell or a blood elf ready for this. You can also individually purge these, however that's going to require a lot of time, very likely a shaman. The other mob in this pack is the Fallen Death Speaker. The Fallen Death Speaker puts a very nasty debuff on the tank, make sure that you instantly dispel this, as well as try and cast Raised Dead. Raised Dead is basically him spawning another reanimated guardian, so make sure that you interrupt this. After clearing this pack, you will start encountering horrors. Horrors are very easy to deal with, they can be stunned and used as like silence runes, and all you do is cast Death Bolt. If Death Bolt goes through, it does a moderate amount of damage to your entire group and leave a debuff. The scary part of this mob is that if multiple casts goes through, the debuff does stack. At 3-4 stacks, your group is almost instantly going to wipe. The next mob we will be talking about are the Bloodsworn Defilers. These are probably the most dangerous mobs in the entire instance, as they have 3 different casts you have to deal with. The first cast they will do is Withering Curse. Withering Curse is a channel of them, which will reduce the amount of damage you deal and increase the amount of damage you take. This is very scary with their second ability they will cast, which is Shadowbolt Volley. This Shadowbolt Volley does a ridiculous amount of damage, so it's your highest priority to interrupt. Pulling 2 Defilers is going to require you to have 4 different interrupts ready to interrupt all of these. Withering Curse is your highest priority, Shadowbolt Volley is the second highest, and then they have a third cast, which is Spirit Drain Totem. This is the lowest priority. All the Spirit Drain Totem does is it will put a small totem in the melee. After a couple of seconds this will explode, do moderate amount of damage and stun the targets. However, you can simply run away from this, or you can even kill the totem as it does have very little HP. The next boss we will be playing will be Sporkala Zansha. The main mechanic of this boss is that there will be a lot of small mushrooms around the area. You get 3 different ways to deal with these mushrooms, and you have to do so before he reaches 100% energy. At 100% energy, the boss will cast Festering Harvest, which will explode every single remaining mushroom in the room. Every single party player, 1 stack per mushroom he exploded. At around 3 stacks, you're very close to dying. The first way to deal with this will be with Shockwave. This is a frontal cleave that's going to the tank. You want to make sure that you tank the boss in front of a couple of mushrooms and the cleaves will hit him. Other than this, there is Upheaval. Upheaval puts out 2 debuffs. These debuffs simply have to run towards the mushrooms, leave the big AoE around them to clear them. If there's any mushrooms remaining, the best that you can do is simply run into 1 mushroom to prevent more stacks of going on. So having 1 guy take a mushroom is going to be a lot less damage than 1 mushroom exploding with a Festering Harvest and giving your entire party 1 stack. During this encounter, a couple of bigger mushrooms will also be spawning, 6 of them around the room. These are very easy to actually dodge, as you can simply stand in between 2 mushrooms, then you have to sidestep once, and almost nothing else is going to be reaching you. Standing in the middle is a big no-go for this, as it's a lot harder to dodge these then. The next mob we will be pulling is the Faceless Corruptor. Faceless Corruptor has 2 casts that are very easy to deal with, but you do need to know about them. Abyssal Reach will spawn a couple of small tentacles around the targets. After a couple of seconds they will try and hit you. Other than this he will do Meddering Gaze. Meddering Gaze is a big frontal as you saw right there. Getting hit by this does a lot of damage and also will fear the target. Obviously getting feared in small corridor places like this will very quickly have you be feared into a different pack. Shamans can Tremor Totem this, that can't be dispelled. After killing 2 more Faceless Corruptors, you will be able to enter the last boss room. In this boss room there's the Titan Keeper and the Unbound Abomination. During the Unbound Abomination encounter, the Titan Keeper will support you with 2 of the main mechanics of the boss. First off, he will give you a Cleansing Circle, which will help you purge the debuff off you. Basically the Cleansing Circle is a master spell, so you want to make sure that every single ally stands in this to get rid of the debuffs. For a healer there's no reliable way to clear these debuffs outside of being a priest with master spell. Other than this, the Titan Keeper will help you kill the adds that the boss will spawn. During this encounter the boss actually doesn't take damage, instead dealing damage to the boss will fill up his rage bar. When his bar reaches 100 he will spawn 2 adds. The Titan Keeper will choose to pursue one, and your team simply has to kill the second one. Killing these adds will take the health of the boss permanently, and this is how you end up killing him. Other than this, the boss does Fall Explosion. This is a big frontal cast that can be casted towards any player of your party. This means including the tank. The way how we found the best to deal with this is simply mark 1 player and everyone will stand on this player. We drag the boss in a circle and we just have him shoot towards the wall every single time. From the goo that the boss spawns, Rotting Spores will spawn. Rotting Spores will slowly reach towards your group and try and hit them. If this reaches a player, it will do a ridiculous amount of damage. We want to make sure that you clear these. We generally assign 1 player to clearing these based on the abilities they have. So for example in Boom King, Starfall is extremely good for this, or Elemental Shaman Chain Lightning. Well guys, this rounded off the guide. Again, I'm Cayna. You can find all my socials in the video description below, including my Twitch, where you're welcome to stop by when I'm live and ask any questions you may have regarding the dungeons. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did so, remember to hit that like button and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, have a great day.